Hi, everybody, and welcome. I am so excited to see you all today. My name is Alex Marga, and I'm the Director of Customer Success here at PlaybookUX. And joining us in the chat is our support team who will be answering questions throughout the webinar. So please feel free to drop us a line at any time. And just as you know, we will be sending out a recording of this presentation after the webinar is over. So if you are looking if you have to leave early, definitely feel free to do so. We also will be uploading this to our YouTube channel. We have some other webinars available to view currently, so please feel free to check that out. But I am so pleased to be able to show you some of the brand new features that we've been working on here at PlaybookUX. And our team has listened to your feedback and delivered on a variety of new products that we will hopefully make your research faster and more efficient going forward. So let me go ahead and get started here. So in today's webinar, I'll be covering segmentation, surveys, updates to our moderated study process, and deliver some exciting business updates. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. And thank you again for bearing with me through that. So a common piece of feedback that we've received from customers in the past has been to find an easier way to fulfill quotas in research studies. Oftentimes, researchers want to test their prototypes, websites, or products on different audiences without having to make multiple different studies. So our team has an answer for this, and we are proud to announce segmentation. So it's now available on the scale plan and for all methodologies. Segmentation allows you to set up multiple audiences for one project, including different devices and screener questions based on what specific audiences you are looking to capture. So let me go ahead and actually show you how it works. I'm going to go ahead and switch my screen over here. Awesome. So as I mentioned, segmentation is actually available for all different types of methodologies. So today I'm going to show you in an unmoderated study what it looks like to set up multiple audiences. So when creating a project, you'll want to define your audience by the different demographic breakdowns that we have listed. This should be fairly familiar if you've used PlaybookUX before, but if you haven't, we have a variety of different drop-downs available. You can also add screener questions here at the end. But first, when you're creating an audience segment, you'll want to go ahead and name your audience, and this will help you later on when you're looking through the results of your data. So for example, in this study, maybe I want to speak to residents of Washington State over the age of 40. So I can type in Washington residents 40 plus. And this is just seen by me. So this is helpful for me later when I'm looking at my results. Then I can go ahead and go down to the age slider here. And I can adjust this to show everybody between the ages of 40 and 65 plus. And then I can also go down to the location here for US states, click any, and search Washington State here. So now I have my audience set up here. We have Washington residents who are above the age of 40. And I can now move forward with my study if I wanted just that one audience. However, I can actually add a second audience if I wanted to by clicking this new audience segment. Or another thing that you can do is if you have a similar enough audience that you just need to make a few adjustments, you can go ahead and click the three dots here to duplicate this audience. So now I have my second audience here. We're going to go ahead and rename this, and maybe I want to talk to Washington residents who are in college or in current college students. So I can say college students in Washington. So I already have my location set up with Washington State since I duplicated my assignment here, but maybe I want to make sure to capture a wider audience in age. So I can adjust my slider back to 18, and then I can add a screener question. So are you currently enrolled in a college or university? Apologies, it takes a second for it to load there. There we go. And then we can say yes and no. And I just want to qualify the answers of yes, so I can go ahead and select this to disqualify. So now I have two different audiences here. We have the audience of just 40 plus residents that will capture anybody who's above the age of 40 within the state of Washington. There's no screener questions involved here. And then I have my college students in Washington with a wider age range, but they do have a screener question to answer. So now I have two audience segments. I can move forward with my study, or I can definitely add additional audiences for this study if I wanted to segment it out even further. So as you can see, this is a really nice way to capture multiple different quotas for different audiences. You can even include different amounts for each audience. So if you wanted to find, 3 people who are college students and 2 people who are above the age of 40, you can separate out the amounts of people to recruit for this. And this will come into play when you are looking at your results. So for example, this is an unmoderated study that we did, and you can see all of the results of the participants here on the tab for participants. But there'll be a drop down slider here. So I can look at all of my audiences together, or I can single in on the parents, which was one of the segments in this specific study, or I can look at college students and see their responses. And this also applies to analytics. So any of the analytics you'll be able to see all together or segment it out depending on which segment that you wanted to look at. So here are just the college student responses. Alrighty. So moving on, you asked and we delivered. PlaybookUX has launched a brand new methodology, and we are so excited to share this with you. We have now launched surveys. So with surveys, you can now gather more pointed and specific feedback from a wide range of participants all at once. Setting up a survey is a quick and easy process, and it allows you full control of how participants are presented information, using things like skip logic and different pages to control the flow. Surveys are currently available for any scale plan users, and it costs $5 per participant. So without further ado, let me go ahead and show you what it looks like to set up a survey in our system here. And apologies again, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again here. Alrighty, perfect. So let's go ahead and go to the right screen. So when you're selecting your methodology, you'll notice that we have all of our current ones that we've offered before, as well as our brand new surveys option here. So you'll go ahead and click create. And you'll go ahead and name your project. Again, this is always internal facing, so your participants will not see this. But for this example, let's say we're trying to understand the purchasing habits of customers in relation to the hobbies that they do. So maybe I'm a shoe company and I want to understand how people buy new pairs of shoes for different activities and what their current spending habits are. So I will name this shoe investigation survey. Now for surveys, since it applies to all methodologies, you'll notice that we do have segmentation available for this. For this specific purpose, I will go ahead and move forward, but you can add different segmented audiences for surveys as well. And here you can start to create your survey. So first and foremost, we do have welcome screens and closing screens available for you. You can customize these if you'd like, but we do have text in place in case you don't want to do that. And then you'll be able to set up your survey via a page. So first and foremost, I always like to name my pages. So we'll call it introduction. And you can have multiple pages. You can keep all of your questions on one page, but this is a great way to kind of split up the different questions as you're going through the flow of the survey. So let's say the first question we want to add is a multiple selection question where they're able to answer more than one answer. And we're going to ask, what type of hobbies do you like to do? And then we'll say running, hiking, and swimming as the options here. And maybe we'll also put in other as well. You can add additional types of questions. So we have things like rating scales. We have written responses where they write out their answer. We also have single select where they just choose one option. And you can also include a text prompt to kind of help give some context as well. So maybe we want a single select question here as well, saying how often do you do, or maybe not how often, but when was the last time you participated in this hobby? We can say less than 1 week, 1 to 2 weeks, 1 to 2 months, maybe greater than 6 months. So now my participants will have to choose one of these options. So now that we have kind of a baseline here, maybe we want to understand our participants who are picking running as an option. We want to know why, how often they spend on buying new shoes, what types of brands they like, what's important to them. So for this, it's not really applicable to the other options here because obviously if they choose just swimming, it won't really work for them. So I can set up a new page and I can start adding questions to this. For this new page, we're going to call it running. And so maybe I will have a written response saying, what is the most important feature of new shoes, for example. I can add additional things here, rating scale. What did you think of your last pair of running shoes? Hated them, loved them. Probably not a fun thing to say to get feedback from them on that, but you never know. So we have different various types of questions here available. So now that I have my running page, maybe I'll move forward in the study or the survey for them, but maybe I also want to capture some responses from people who said hiking because hiking boots are also something that we sell. So in this case, I can set up another page for hiking. Again, similar to segmentation, I can also duplicate this page since most of the questions are going to stay the same. They're just going to be a little bit different. So I can duplicate this page here and name this hiking. And I can include things like hiking shoes. What did you think of your last pair of hiking boots, for example? So now I have some baseline set up for my survey, but obviously I want to sort of control the flow of the survey depending on how people respond. So what we can do now is set up some skip logic. So this is available for every single page that you create, but when you scroll to the bottom, you'll notice this little section here that says skip logic. And we can start to add skip logic statements to make it the flow of the survey work well with the people who are participating in it. So I can choose out of the questions that I have on page 1 here. So what type of hobbies do you like to do? If they select running, I'm going to go ahead and skip them to the running page. I can even add additional outliers here. So if I want to say I want to talk to people who said running and do it very frequently, and everybody else, if they said that they are, I don't want to look at the people who haven't ran in the last 6 months. So maybe I'll put in is not 6 months. So it'll capture only the people who answered one of these 3 responses here. So I can get very granular with how it moves forward. I can also add multiple skip logic statements. So in this case, if they said, let's say we want them to go from the hiking page, we want them to skip over the running page because it's going to be the same questions that we asked, just a little bit different. So in this case, I can say, what types of hobbies do you do? If they select hiking, I'm just going to go ahead and move them to the hiking page and move forward there. Finally, for anything that doesn't really apply, maybe I don't, swimming is one of the options that we had. Maybe this isn't something that they, that we want to capture. It's important to us to know how many of our participants said swimming as an option. And maybe we want to include other outliers here. So if we say, what hobbies do you do? And they collect swimming. And maybe we say that running is not selected and hiking is not selected, for example. They just said swimming, then we're just going to go ahead and skip them straight to the end screen. So that way they don't have to answer any additional questions. They just move right over to the end. We still capture that information, so it's helpful for our research, but it's not necessarily as important to us as it is finding those information for our runners and our hikers. One additional thing to note is that you can randomize question order on each page. So if you wanted to randomize it for reducing bias, you can absolutely do that. But you do have control over how you want to organize things as well. So if you choose to keep it not randomized. You can move questions around just the same as you would in an unmoderated study, but you can keep them in a specific order if you like. And this is what it'll look like for a participant. So I'll go ahead and preview the study here. So this welcome screen again can be customized. And this is what it'll look like for a participant. So they can choose their options. So let's say we're going to choose hiking as an option, maybe other as well. And I'm going to say, every 1 to 2 weeks, I like to go hiking. So when I click next, you'll notice that we are now currently on our hiking page, because I can see in my notes here that hiking shoes is one of the things I had. So I can type in my response, rate it. And when I click next, I should be taken to the end screen. And here's that thank you page. But if I wanted to go ahead and update this, so let's try that again just so you can see the other option here. Let's say we have swimming as one of the options. It'll just take me right to that end screen, since that is our skip logic allows for that. So we really wanted to make surveys an option that is nice and easy to use and easy to set up, gives you a lot of control. And we also have included a lot of different analytical features as well. So for example, this is a survey that we ran. You can also see in the study notes, you'll be able to see the various different segments that we had and all of the different pages that we had here and different questions. On the Participants tab, you'll be able to view each individual person's response. You'll also notice that this was a segmented audience, so I could check my audience segments here. But when I click on this icon right to the right, it'll show me how each person answered and whether or not they were skipped over a certain page, depending on their answer. I can also look at the analytics all together here. So for each page, we have the different questions broken down by different types of questions here. You'll be able to see the various responses. Here's written responses, for example. And then our single select question here will show you a different graph as well. So we tried to break it down to make it nice and easy to analyze the results after the fact. And of course, those audience segments here, we can choose just the male responses or the female non-binary responses out of the segments here as well. One final thing I wanted to mention is, you probably saw as I clicked on add new question, is that you'll see that we have some activities that are currently listed. They are not available just yet, but we are very excited to be able to bring you some additional activities to surveys in the near future. We will include first click tests, 5-second tests, and preference tests as options in the future. And I will make sure to reach out as soon as we have those available. Alrighty. So we've made some changes to our moderated study setup process in an effort to make it faster and easier to use. And we actually have a few different updates in the moderated sphere. So let's go ahead and dive into some of these new features. So for our scale plan users, you will now be able to access live notes. So when joining a session through PlaybookUX, you'll be prompted to join via the browser. And during your meeting with the participant, you can actually take notes in the box on the right. So you'll notice on our screen here is an example of a moderated session. The white box on the right is a section where you can take notes that are all internal facing. The participant will not see these notes. As you type the notes, the field will populate with the researcher's name and the timestamp of the notes. So you can actually find these notes later when you're reviewing a video back under the section that's called Notes and Clips. So it'll timestamp it for you, where you can go and watch that part of the video that you did take that note, even if you're doing it in the moment. And if you have another researcher joining you for the session, they can also take notes when joining from the browser, and it will show which researcher took which note. This brings me to the next new feature that we just launched, which is called Collaborators. So now you can add another user from your workspace to a moderated study as a collaborator. The other researcher will receive all email invites to the sessions and be sent updates when videos have been processed for the study. So this is a great way to collaborate with your team members and help kind of ease up the load of different studies as you're launching moderated studies. If you have a researcher on the team interested in collaborating but are not currently on PlaybookUX, reach out to your team lead to see if you can add an account for them. And just as a reminder, we do not charge per seat, so you can absolutely add additional members of your team to PlaybookUX without worrying how to pay for a spot for them. So this feature is currently being beta tested for all accounts. However, it will be exclusive to Scale Plan members in the near future. In addition to the previous moderated updates, we've also added some cool new features that are available for all accounts. In the past, we were only able to offer the option of 30-minute and 60-minute sessions for moderated studies, but we've recently updated our system to allow for the option of both 90-minute and 120-minute sessions. So when creating your study, select the length of your moderated studies during the project creation, and your participant will be expected for those 90-minute or 120-minute if you choose that option. And if you need to re-download the calendar invite, or if you can't find the email for a particular session with the participant, you can now download the calendar invite directly from your schedule by clicking the action button next to the participant's name and selecting download the calendar invite. So this is a great way to add it to your calendar if for any reason you're not able to find that email that was sent to you. And last but not least, one very exciting business update. We take security very seriously here at PlaybookUX. So we are proud to announce that we are now certified in SOC 2 Type 2, as well as ISO 27701 and ISO 27001. We are very excited to be able to present this to you, and we are always making improvements to make sure security is always our number one priority. We're so happy to be able to share these updates with you and continue to work on improving the user research experience with new features and updates in the future. But we would be remiss to say that we couldn't have done this without the valuable feedback from researchers like you. So I want to just say from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for providing us with your insights, your feedback, your questions. These are all things that we take into consideration when we're building out new features. So if you ever have suggestions on new features, trends, or updates that could help improve the platform, please feel free to let us know anytime, because this is extremely valuable to us. We want to make the experience easier for you. And with that, we are concluding our webinar for this afternoon. So I appreciate you all for joining me, and I'll take any questions from the chat in a moment if you have them. But I just want to thank you again for joining us today and for working with us here at PlaybookUX. If you have any questions about PlaybookUX, are interested in seeing some of these features in action, or would like to know more on upgrading your subscription, let us know and we'll get in touch with you. Another note is that we're hosting more webinars in the future, and we have some available to watch on our YouTube channel. So feel free to search PlaybookUX on YouTube for some of our previous webinars. Topics that we've done in the past are tagging your research, crafting good questions, using research in different ways for different parts of your company, and even doing card sort type tests and things like that. If there's any topic related to user research that you would like to see in a future webinar, definitely drop us a line. I'm always open to feedback from anybody. But again, once again, thank you so much for joining us today. We're so excited to be able to present this to you. And if anybody has any last minute questions in the chat, I'll go ahead and stick around for a few minutes. And we'll wrap up here at 11:30 Pacific time. So let's see here. So yep, Lindsay, it looks like took care of the question, but one of the questions, just in case anybody hasn't seen the chat, are there any limits on number of questions, segments, or pages for surveys? So Lindsay had mentioned that right now we don't have a limit, but surveys aren't meant to be super long. You want to keep in mind that your participants are going to be paid for their time. And in addition to that, as you probably have been aware, if you've taken a survey before, going through a very long survey can be a little challenging after a little bit of time. So you want to keep that in mind when you're doing surveys with your participants, just to not keep them super long. If you feel like you're getting to a point where your survey is going on a little bit too long, or you have a lot of questions and you're not quite sure, I usually recommend setting up two different surveys. You can definitely still get valuable information if you split it up. So like an example I mentioned where we had hiking and running, maybe we want to do one specific survey where we ask a lot of questions to the people who chose running, and maybe we want to do a second one where we have a lot of questions for people who said hiking, for example. So there's definitely ways that you can split those up, or do follow-up surveys and things like that as well. Yeah. I should also mention all of these features are currently live. They are all available for everyone who has the appropriate subscription plan. Once again, surveys and segmentation are both available for scale plan users only. However, some of the moderated updates are available to others. Live notes is also something in the scale plan, but our collaborators, the 90 to 120 minutes, and the downloading calendar invites are all currently available for all users. The collaborators will be moving over to the scale plan as well, but we don't have a current date for that. So as soon as we know more information, if you have questions about that, or if you're not on the scale plan and you're interested in switching over or have questions about that, definitely let us know. We are more than happy to help answer those questions for you. Alrighty, it looks like we're wrapping up here right at 11:30. I did see one question in the comment that Lindsay had answered that I want to verbalize as well. So Mary had asked if the participants in different segments earn for doing surveys and things like that. So we do, if you use the Playbook UX participants, they are given incentives. So it costs $5 per participant, and they get paid out of that money for their time to be able to do the survey. If you are using your own participants, we do not compensate those participants. So that is something that you would need to go ahead and take care of. But for the participants on the Playbook UX panel, they are paid for their time for participating in surveys. Fantastic. Well, I appreciate everybody's time today. I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this stream. However, if you do have any additional questions that we are happy to answer for you, feel free to drop them in our chat support team. You can click the little blue circle in the bottom right corner of Playbook UX, and it's on any page. And our chat support team can help answer questions for you. And once again, I really appreciate your time today. Thank you so much for joining us. If you have questions, we also have a What's New page on our website that you can also view some information about these various different updates. We've also updated our help center to have some articles on how to use some of these features. If you are if you need assistance with that, definitely let us know. We're happy to help. And once again, if you are not on the scale plan, if you're interested in joining us, or if you have never seen Playbook UX before and you have more questions, definitely feel free to reach out to us. We are more than happy to help anytime. But once again, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. And if anybody in the comments, if you are, let us know. We can definitely assist if you reach out to our chat support team. We can continue answering questions as well. But I appreciate you all today. Thank you so much. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.